Eugene Murphy.
And I'm just going to use a few brief moments to, first of all, in my support to the bill. I was speaking to Deputy Dáil earlier this evening, and I'm glad as a party that we are supporting it. It's really, I suppose, extremely sad that just right now, in the run-up to Christmas, all over this country, every small town, big town, there are people tonight, tomorrow, next coming days, will be taking out small loans to cover certain things at Christmas. And they will pay dearly, very dearly for those loans. And, you know, I've come across a number of situations over the years in terms to these moneylenders. And of course, moneylenders don't give out money for the good of their health. Any moneylender, they're out to make money. But really, we do need to come to a situation in this nation where we have to look after people in very difficult situations, sometimes afraid to speak out, and maybe very, very quietly make contact with an illegal moneylender and take out that money mainly for family reasons. I recently, in recent months, I came across somebody who just borrowed €600, and the APR on that, as Deputy McGrath has mentioned, was 187%. Like, I mean, that is extraordinary. And I have the facts of that case. Another case, you know, people were paying out 80 or paying back 80 or 90% interest on those loans. So I think what we have to do here, really, we have to get back to ensuring that the credit unions can look after those people. And I suppose one of the things that has happened is that in some areas, the way that credit unions could operate and look after people very locally has become complicated. And the administration of what I suppose the state, the central bank are putting in them there is definitely causing difficulties there, and people are suffering. It's unacceptable as legislators that we can't bring this under control. And I believe that this type of lending, particularly at this time of the year, is widespread. And this is a type of predator lending, as people will know. Yeah. Predator lending. Illegal. They're predators. These people are predators. And you know, again, recall a few months back about talking to somebody, telling me about her experience some years back. Family difficulties, 4 children, had to get a loan from one of the loan sharks and ran into a bit of difficulty, even though it was only 10 punts a week to pay back at the time. Might seem little, but it was enormous for that lady. And while those moneylenders did not, Las Cangora, threaten the woman with violence, they turned up every single evening, week after week, day after day, week after week, month after month, where mainly her kids answered the door. And is your mother in? Is your mother in? Is your mum in? And they witnessed all of this. They witnessed all of this on the doorstep. You know, and that to me is appalling intimidation. Now, that woman was just afraid to go into her credit union. She was afraid to go into her bank. We were able to get something done for that particular person when we put her on the right track and on the right road. And we got her out of a very difficult situation. So there is example after example all over the place. And loan sharks use blackmail constantly. They blackmail people constantly. They frighten people. And some loan sharks threaten violence on people if they're in difficulty with that loan. We cannot have that happening to any of our citizens. And I could give you far more examples, Minister. Far more examples in relation to cases that I've come over since I became a TD and when I was a local authority member. So it is really important that we try and support bills that have been brought forward like the one we have here this evening. And I would hope that the government would cooperate with it. And we pursue this vigorously, because this type of situation shouldn't have to go on month after month, year after year to be solved. It should be solved in a matter of months. at most, because constantly, as I said, people are suffering out there. And you come into January and February, and there will be people unknown to us scurrying around the place trying to pay off those moneylenders, paying exorbitant rates of interest. And usually those are the type of loan sharks that call on your door offering credit or do it by telephone. Now, if people were to think about that, it's not really the normal way, credit is offered. So people should be really, really wary of individuals who call on their doorstep. But of course, if they get you in once, they keep coming back to you. And there are families, poor families in this country, who've been caught in this web for years, year after year after year, and have suffered a lot of financial hardship because of that situation. And just in conclusion, I suppose sometimes we don't think of the little things, but I know at one stage, a very recent past, because we have done away with the funeral grant because people, maybe in authority, think anymore people don't use it, of a woman who had to borrow in excess of 3,000 to pay off for a funeral. Now, she didn't get help off the welfare officer. As I said, the funeral grant, as it was known, was withdrawn. And that put enormous stress and strain on that family. Unfortunately, there were issues within the family. There was no money. That happens. That's the reality of life. Not every person is as lucky as the other on this earth. So those situations are out there. They are very real. They are very challenging. And most people who use those type of money lending individuals are really afraid to talk. They're ashamed to talk about their situation. They're ashamed even to talk to their politicians about it. And I believe, Minister, that the credit unions are getting it harder to give loans to some of those people. And in the past, I think, from what I know and what I would have been involved in, credit unions were really the saviours for many of those people. So I would urge, Minister, and I know you mean well, I would urge you to try and, take away the amendment, support the bill, and let this go forward as quickly as possible.